29 degrees, I'm sweaty, I'm hot, I'm dirty, I've got scratched up legs, I've got leech bites on my ankles, and what better thing to do than to cool off underneath the salt water of one of my favourite collecting spots up here in northern New South Wales. So this afternoon I'm going to have a crack at catching a new pet saltwater fish for my aquarium. This is a really unusual place. It's an estuary. All these rocks along here are covered in oysters, and there's mangroves just coming along down that bend down there. We've got plenty of sandbanks and deep channels, but it's a really interesting place because there's a lot of this sort of loose rock rubble along the bank, and that creates a really interesting habitat for a lot of reef fishers that like to shelter in here during the warmer months. And for me as an avid collector, it's some fantastic foraging ground. I've got my DIY collecting bucket with the lid there, already tied to my weight belt from behind. Now in New South Wales, if you want to do some collecting, you're going to use a Section 37 aquarium collection permit, which is available from the Department of Fisheries. You can get that for 1 year or 5 years, as well as a recreational fishing permit, and you need to have those with you, or at least in your vehicle, when you actually do your collecting. Best time to go collecting is actually at high tide. So that is when you get the slack tide, the clean water from the ocean has rushed on in, and that's left the actual viewing and the collecting opportunities to be perfect. If you leave it to the low tide, you're going to have dirty water coming from further upstream. If you leave it between tides, you're going to have a situation where you're fighting the currents. So I like to jump in a little bit downstream of where I want to go collecting, about half an hour before the actual high tide. I use the current to my advantage, work my way inshore or upstream, and then I use this slack tide to spend a fair bit of time looking around, and then use the actual outgoing tide, just the start of the outgoing tide, to take me back to where I started. Big estuary cod down there with a lure hanging out of his mouth. I'm all for fishing. I like fishing. I go fishing myself, but it's just sad to see sometimes the effects of big fish like that you have to live their life with a hook or a lure hanging out of their mouth. Right, this is the spot. This is the spot when I was down here a couple of weeks ago, where I actually saw this fish I'm chasing, very particular fish, and I was happy I'd be able to find him again. That was pretty cool. That's a male fine spotted fairy wrasse. Okay, alright, I found one. So let's see if we can go down and catch him. This is the first time I've actually done this with a GoPro. Lost him. He's actually got a really dark colour in the evening with all the afternoon light.
as opposed to the usual bright yellow coloration, so it's actually really hard to see when you take your eyes off him. I'll keep having a look around, see if we can get him again. I got one. I got one. Let's go back. Righto, so what I go do now is get my bucket, which is floating over there in the sunshine, and tow it all back up to me here, and we'll have a good look and discuss what my new pet fish is. How cool is that? Conditions are pretty terrible, actually. I've got to say, as far as my experience down here in this river, this is probably one of the worst in terms of the conditions and the visibility, but successful catching a yellow boxfish, a juvenile yellow boxfish. So I actually did see a couple of these yellow boxfish about 2 weeks ago when I was actually in this river, and although I wasn't really looking to collect one just then, I did have it in my mind that I was trying to think about a new pet fish to have in a very special peninsula tank. It occurred to me that a yellow boxfish is a fish that I've never kept before. I do have a soft spot for the whole pufferfish group, and they do make fantastic pet fish. And as you know, I'm going to be collecting a stars and stripes pufferfish for my Gold Coast Seaway aquarium. But I thought, seeing as I've seen a couple of these juvenile yellow boxfish at the moment, it'd be a good idea to see if I can collect one of those and keep it in a smaller tank now, just in case I don't see them later on in the season. And we've successfully done that. I'm pretty happy with my catch, but I'm also pretty happy to be back at the car. The condition of the water is getting a little bit murkier and murkier, and being a river mouth, being an oyster estuary, I'm starting to feel like a little bit like bull shark bait. So I think I'll take this as a win, and I'll get on out of the water. This bucket, which is floating on here behind me, was an absolute game changer. I used to actually have a net bag stuck in my weight belt, but with this bucket and this easy lid to put fish in that and the fish can't get out again, it's made collecting so much easier, and also a place to store my keys. If you're interested in making one of these buckets of your own, I'll pop a link to that video at the end of this one for you. You may be wondering why I like this estuary so much. During the summer months, it's actually a really good refuge for a lot of tropical reef fish that get washed down with the East Australia current. And I think the reason why it's such good collecting is because of that rocky oyster kind of loose rubble, and there's so many pockets and so many crevices that the small fish can actually take refuge under. Winter months you don't see them, but just now, as you can see, you can start to see the actual reef fish appearing. So I'm definitely going to be bringing you guys back here again. Late afternoon, let's get Mr. Boxfish home and
get him tucked into his new aquarium.